Hello everyone and welcome to The Shelf. Today we'll be taking a look at the now out-of-print manga Angel Beats Heaven's Door. When it finished airing on June 26, 2010, Angel Beats had captured the hearts and minds of viewers around the world. Yu Meida's original story and Naga's character designs blended together with beautiful animation by PA Works created a striking and memorable anime. And those visuals were matched by a soundtrack composed by Maeda and the music group Anet Dark Eyes. It was received well by both critics and fans, and it sold pretty well in Japan, with each volume of its Blu-ray release reaching the top 3 of the weekly Oricon sales chart. However, despite all of its success, there was always one consistent critique, one that would appear in even the most glowing of reviews. That being that the short length of its one and only season didn't allow the series enough time to properly develop its large cast of characters and provide additional background information, both on the characters and the world that they live in. While this was an original story, Angel Beats was always supposed to be a multimedia project. This would allow its story to be told and expanded upon even after the anime concluded. Actually, the first release of Angel Beats was a light novel. Angel Beats Track 0 was a prequel to the anime and was released on September 30th, 2009. While it does provide some additional information about its world and characters, it isn't very long and it didn't appear to be incredibly popular. And that makes sense. How many people are going to go out of their way to read a novel that serves as a prequel to an anime that hasn't even aired yet, especially when it's a completely original series? Something else that may surprise you is that Angel Beats Heaven's Door, which adapts and expands upon the prequel novel Track 0, also began publication before the release of the anime on March 30th, 2010. Angel Beats' popularity in Western markets began to grow in 2011. On March 24th, Sentai Filmworks announced that it had acquired the license to the series and would be releasing it on Blu-ray and DVD. They also announced that they would be dubbing the series in English. Several months later, in June 2011, Angel Beats would be available for streaming in Japanese with English subtitles on Anime Network Online. However, after the English Blu-ray and DVD releases in July, things started to quiet down. While Heaven's Door was still being published in Japan, Western fans still hadn't received an official translation of Track 0. So, as time passed, many believed that they'd never see an official release of the prequel manga. This sentiment was apparently shared by licensors, including 7 Seas Entertainment, an independently owned manga publisher in North America. In 2014, in response to a Tumblr question about the chances that 7 Seas would license Heaven's Door, Connor Crooks, 7 Seas' social media and press liaison, said, "I do hear about this every once in a while, but honestly, I'm not sure if Angel Beats still has as much presence now as it did back when the anime first came out. As I've mentioned a few times, we're essentially locked in for our 2014 licenses, meaning that we're now looking for series in 2015. We have to consider what will still sell then, and when looking at Angel Beats, that's a tough call." Another year passed, and the chances of a publisher licensing the series seemed low. But that all changed on one Friday afternoon. On July 3rd, 2015, 7 Seas Entertainment announced that it had acquired the rights to Angel Beats Heaven's Door, and that the first volume would be released on February 9th, 2016, with pre-orders on Amazon going live the following week. The rumblings that Connor Crooks spoke of the year before had finally turned into something concrete. In the comment section of the Anime News Network article covering the announcement, he said, "It's been in the works for a while. But for what it's worth, we had received numerous requests across social media for the title. However, even though a release date was announced, it was still more than 7 months away, and there was a lot of work to be done." That's where Ryan Peterson comes in. Ryan is a freelance translator that started working with 7 Seas on their translation of Haganai in 2012. A few years later, in July of 2015, he would be working on the release of Heaven's Door. While he had heard of Angel Beats before he started working on this project, he wasn't exactly a fan. However, in order to familiarize himself with the source material, he decided to watch the entire anime. This would also help him to keep the translations consistent. The translation process itself is fairly straightforward. I received the manga either physically or digitally, though generally digitally in recent years, then translate it page by page, denoting which panel and character the text corresponds with. For example, let's take a look at a page from One Piece. If Ryan were translating it, the document that he submitted for this page would look something like this. After the entire volume is translated, it's then reread, reviewed for errors, and then sent to an editor at 7 Seas. He's typically given 1 month to finish his translations, and once it's in the editor's hands, his work is finished. Fast forwarding to February 2016, everything seemed to be going great. The first volume was released, readers liked it, and you could pre-order the next 2 volumes from various online retailers. When the second volume was first listed, its release date was May 17, 2016, but it was delayed. While Volume 2 wasn't scheduled to be released until March 25, 2017, fans were excited to learn more about the worlds and characters they liked from the anime. Then the year ended, March came and went, and Volume 2 still hadn't been released. The pre-order pages had been updated and there was a new date listed, April 25th, 2017. Okay, it had been delayed by a month. It was no big deal. That was until April came to a close and the release date was changed to January 1st, 2099. This is when people realized that things weren't going well. Not only had the second volume been delayed indefinitely, but 7 Seas didn't say anything to indicate that they were dealing with production issues. In fact, they hadn't mentioned Angel Beats at all since the licensing announcement. But in the following weeks, people thought that things had sorted themselves out. The 2099 release date had been changed to May 25th, 2017, and again, fans waited patiently for it to ship. It's now 2021, and the first volume of Angel Beats Heaven's Door is still the only one that's been released. That leads us to the question on the minds of Angel Beats fans: what happened to Heaven's Door? Ryan Peterson was the only person involved with the project that I was able to get in contact with, and as a freelance translator, he didn't take part in Seven Seas' publishing decisions. Because of this, we're going to have to enter speculative territory when it comes to trying to determine exactly what happened. However, I think the most likely answer is the most obvious one: it just didn't sell very well. Remember the comment that Connor Crooks made in 2014? Seven Seas have been thinking about licensing Angel Beats for a while, which is something that he reiterated in 2015. Even then, they weren't sure that licensing Angel Beats would be profitable. They were worried that much of the series' popularity had waned in Western markets in the years since the anime had aired. This probably pushed the series down on the priority list a fair bit, which resulted in them not actually picking up the license until 2015, and not releasing the first volume until 2016, 5 years after the series' popularity was at its peak. Any concerns that they had about its popularity dwindling would only be compounded by this additional lag time. The next question is, if they were that concerned about the commercial viability of publishing Heaven's Door before 2014, why did they decide to move forward with the license in 2015? It's not like anything had taken place that would drastically increase its popularity. Yes, the visual novel Angel Beats' First Beat was released that year, but it was announced in 2013 and was never released in English. While an unofficial English patch did eventually come out, it was just released in May of last year. Maybe they thought that it would be popular enough to warrant an official English release, which would stimulate demand for the manga. If so, they appear to be partially right, at least at first. In an interview with Anime News Network in 2016, the CEO of Visual Arts, the company that published the game, said that over half of the game had been translated into English, but he didn't provide a timeline for its release, and much like the rest of Heaven's Door, it's never seen the light of day. Getting back to the topic at hand, if it wasn't a larger Angel Beats related announcement that caused them to change their minds, what was it? And again, the answer appears to lie within Connor Crooks' comments. In his comment on the press release in 2015, he specifically mentioned that they had been receiving requests from fans across several of their social media platforms, and that this had been going on for years. For example, the comment that he made in 2014 was in response to a fan asking if there was any chance that Seven Seas would pick up Heaven's Door. Seven Seas, seeing the engagement of hardcore fans, may have been convinced that this hardcore base, that would probably buy any officially released Angel Beats product, was large enough to take the risk of investing in the license. As long as there were enough die-hard fans to offset the cost, positive word-of-mouth advertising should be able to get at least a few people to take a chance on something they may have never heard of before. Plus, there were plenty of fans of the anime that had no idea that Heaven's Door existed, and may be interested in checking it out. If you operate with these assumptions in mind, it actually looks like a fairly low-risk investment. Unfortunately, we already know how the story ends. They announce the license, release Volume 1, and then the series disappears into the ether. But the way that Heaven's Door was cancelled is actually very strange, especially for Seven Seas. Since the company's founding in 2004, only 10 manga and light novels have ever gone permanently out of print, and of those 10 properties, Angel Beats Heaven's Door is one of the only 2 books to go out of print in the last 10 years. Before that, the last 2 titles to go out of print were released in December 2007. Let's construct a timeline based on what we've covered so far. Seven Seas announced that they had acquired the license on July 3rd, 2015. Volume 1 was available for pre-order on July 9th, 2015. Volumes 2 through 3 were made available for pre-order relatively shortly afterwards. Volume 2 was scheduled to be released on May 17th, 2016 before being delayed. The first volume was released on February 9th, 2016, and the second volume was supposed to be released on March 25th, 2017. If we add in when each volume was translated, we can get an idea of when key decisions were made. The translation for Volume 1 began in July of 2015. The translation for Volume 1 was submitted in August of 2015. The translation for Volume 2 began in mid-November 2015. The translation for Volume 2 was submitted in mid-December 2015. The translation for Volume 3 began in late January 2016. The translation for Volume 3 was submitted in late February 2016. Discussions about translating Volume 4 began, and Volume 4 was put on hold in December of 2016. So, not even a year after the first volume was released, it appears as if Seven Seas had determined that Heaven's Door wasn't worth investing any more money into. Also, it should be noted that the December 2016 date is only representative of when Ryan was officially notified that he wouldn't be working on the translation for the 4th volume. This decision could have been made weeks or months earlier, and discussion around it may have been taking place for a while. It's also possible that these discussions started very shortly after the first volume's release, which would explain why the second volume was delayed until the following year. The language that they used is also important to note. Something being placed on hold does imply that it could come back in the future. It's possible that they decided to wait and see if sales improved. Releasing the second and third volumes may have actually still been the plan at this point, but we already know what happened next. Unlike most of my other videos, there isn't enough information available to paint a completely accurate picture of what happened. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get in touch with everyone who may be able to fill in the gaps. I did my best to piece the story together using circumstantial evidence, but there are so many unknown variables at play here. It's possible that sales weren't actually bad at all, relatively speaking, but the cost of the license was so expensive that it didn't matter. It's also possible that they ran into production, licensing, or logistics issues that we're not aware of. While we'll probably never hear the full story from the few people who would be able to tell it, I hope that this helps to answer some of the questions that people have about what happened to Angel Beats Heaven's Door. Thank you all for watching this episode of The Shelf. Please make sure to like the video if you liked the video, and to subscribe if you like informative videos about anime, manga, and light novels. Also, if you know someone who would enjoy this video, share it with them. I'd appreciate it. Lastly, what did you think of my assessment of Heaven's Door's disappearance? If you think that I missed something, feel free to let me know in the comments. But again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.